This is Big Ideas Welcome. Season 3, we are pairing business legends with ambitious founders and digging into big ideas, successes, failures, and lessons learned. I am Chris McAdoo, always honored to be with you. Today's episode, changes. Smarter teams and smarter tools for a future-ready workplace with AV Verekar and Doug Mapp. I hope you got that David Bowie reference. If you didn't, just go look it up. AV is the founder and CEO of Avero Advisors, an Inc. 5000 company specializing in modernizing local governments. They've saved millions and millions and millions of dollars advising municipalities across the United States. He's also this year's lead growth advisor for the Works, the startup accelerator from Knoxville Entrepreneur Center. I am proud to head that effort up. And AV's he's going to be a mentor over the summer. We've got 7 incredible companies and, most importantly, 7 incredible founders. Doug Mapp is the founder of ThinkUp, a company dedicated to leadership development through brain science. Doug is a board-certified cognitive development professional. He works with companies to improve, teams' performance, decision-making, and adaptability. He's also a 2024 graduate of the Works. So we're proud to have Doug back with us. AV and Doug are both from different points tackling the challenges of modern work. What does it mean? What does it look like? Who is it for? And they help teams and leaders adapt, grow, and thrive in an era of rapid change. And that's what we can come to expect is change, right? So we've got a lot to get into. Let's get to work.
AB, Doug, I'm honored to have you guys here. Everyone will have heard about your particular accomplishments with your companies and with your own sort of adventures in entrepreneurship and talent management and in dealing with big problems. AV, the last time you were on, we talked about getting better answers because you've learned to ask better questions. So with that in mind, we're actually going to kick off with a question from a friend of ours, Courtney Jones. She's the founder of MomSource Network and currently founder of BE Labs and a Knoxville Entrepreneur Center mentor and a friend and mentor of mine. She does a lot of work developing people, developing teams, and she asks you guys, given the seismic shifts happening across, it's tech, it's politics, workplace, culture, talent management, where do you see, and we're just jumping right into the deep end, is where do you see AI creating the most profound impact on how teams actually operate and succeed? AV, you want to take the first shot at this one?
Okay. Think, we're entering this era of a hybrid workforce where you need to get ready and uptool yourself to start working with robots. Okay. Bold statement, right? But it's AI agents will make up a huge part of the workforce. And for our company, we had an all-day planning session on Friday, and the question was, how big do we want to be in 5 years? And employee size-wise, I was like, well, that's the wrong question anymore. It's how many humans do you want to have versus how many AI agents? So seismic shifts for sure. I think the one thing people can do is start learning about everything AI by yourself. Don't wait for people to have a training session. Don't wait for your employer to start training you. Just do it. There's a lot of resources available out there. So just jump in, feet first, see what happens.
That's true. I think, though, that having people start off is a little bit more easier said than done based off of our history. And what I mean by that is, think about all the people who don't know how to use Excel well, or don't know how to use like a lot of the Office suite products that they've probably been around for at least 25, 30 years, at least from my career standpoint. And so when we talk about AI is like a umbrella term, like he's talked about AI agents. There's so much to have to learn to be able to effectively use that. And I also think, though, is that if we can level up individually, right, or your employees get leveled up in a way, that they will start creating and using AI agents in a way to create better, meaningful relationships with other humans, which I think is going to be the benefit overall if we can level up ourselves to take advantage of these tools, right? I can get in a plane and fly faster across the country so that I can spend more time versus driving across the country. Spend more time with the individuals I'm going to see, by the way. So that's where I see that. But AI is going to have its, the pros. It seems like a lot of people are scared more so than they are like kind of excited. But just like, any of the productivity tools that came along the way, people say, oh, it's going to take my job. No, it's supposed to make it easier for you to have a better relationship with so-and-so later.
100%, man. It's like eyeball time, as I call it. Most important. What we've lost in the last 5 years after COVID is that keep the human interaction. I'm sick of Zoom meetings and Zoom sales calls. So if it allows people to be in person more often, be their authentic selves and give to each other, that would be an awesome outcome of this revolution.
And I think that's what it's going to do. Well, I think that's what it should do. Now, how long is it going to take us to do that? Yeah.
Well, actually, let's dig into that a little bit. And one, before we go on, some people listening to this may be more or less familiar with some of the terms that we use. So, AV, actually, will you literally define the term? What is an AI agent?
So it's a loose term to define automation that includes a large language model in the mix, right? It is a powerful automation, and automations have been around for a long time. Robotic process automation, things, macros that macros that Excel does. Yeah, automations have been around for a long time. Now you have the ability today to chain these automations together and insert AI large language models in there where they need to be inserted. For example, if you need a large database read and made sense of, instead of a human reading it and trying to come up with correlations, this agent or the AI piece of this can infer information or knowledge from information, pass it on to the next automation set, and give you a result quicker than a human could do. And we're starting to use that internally in our business, and we can talk about that as we go along.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so you guys have actually grown. You're a little north of 50 people right now,
Close to.
and that's in offices all over the United States, based right here in Knoxville, Tennessee, the Maker City. Which of course we are proud to see that growth. Doug, I'm going to take it to Doug because you brought up a real good point in some of those roadblocks that people already face, right, and or have been familiarized with over the course of their careers. Folks are more or less confident with quote unquote technology.
Right.
But what I would like, kind of, you tell me or you tell everyone else out there, what are some of, and I'm following up a little bit more from Courtney's question, is what are some of those essential human elements of great teamwork, working together, do you believe like essentially remains irreplaceable, regardless of the technology that you use?
Yeah, it's going to be communication, number one, and then your the sense of value, right? So your sense of value is not necessarily tied to your paycheck, right? Oftentimes, hopefully it's not. And so those are the number one and two things I think are the things that that are going to be the number one and two things that are going to kind of never be replaced by kind of like AI, like how you feel, or at least it shouldn't be. That's what I think there.
Well, AV, as someone who has been an adopter, an early adopter, right, with a lot of technology, you just spoke to the power of eyeballs, right? One of the things I think is really interesting, and you've actually posted and talked quite a bit about this, is you travel. And you don't travel as a like, oh man, I've got to go here or here. It's, I think you've made a very good point in a lot of your social and the things that you share about how important it is to show people you're willing to go to work for them and travel to them.
Yeah.
So when you go and you travel, what are some of the conversations that you're having now with, and if you want to go into sort of explain a little bit about, what kind of person are you meeting with and what big obstacles are they facing that maybe they weren't even facing 5 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, so my company, Avero Advisors, does work with local governments across the country. We're advising them on modernizing the technology. So we're right in the middle of all of this, right? And the benefit our client base has had historically is that they're the government, so they're slower. And in a time like this is beneficial to them because they don't need to jump right in like private industry does to try out the next big thing. They have the luxury of time to check out what's going on. So when we travel, we are trying to explain or educate our clients on how to modernize their whole technology systems. And the question that comes up in the last year or so is, what do you think of AI? And these conversations are happening with our clients, right? What does that mean for our workforce? What does it mean for our citizens? What does it mean for our funding? And our answer to them is there's no need to rush, A, and B, you need to figure out where you stand in the whole maturity levels of adopting AI or any technology. Capability maturity models have existed for a long, long time. But again, we're now starting to apply that to AI. You can't just start running as soon as you're born. So our conversations these days are around how mature is your entire organization to take this on. And from a people, process, and technology standpoint, technology being the last thing you need to think about when you're trying to adopt AI, which as weird as it sounds.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. When you are having those conversations, are you also looking at their the engagement level of their workforce? Like,
Yes. I mean, it's hard to gauge in a direct way, right? That's maybe somewhere we could work together. Because we'll do surveys, we'll do interviews and get some samples. And depending on the size of the organization, because some of our clients are 10,000 employees. And there's no direct, straightforward way that I know of to gather engagement.
yeah,
AI could be used. Sentiment analysis.
yeah,
Go through their
yeah.
emails.
Go through their emails. They'll let you do that. That's funny.
Well, I think it is interesting to think about that human part because what you've touched on, AB, and I think it was really, really, really important that you said people process in that order. People, then process, then the technology. Because I think all too often when people think about adopting new technology, they're replacing the processes they have. Right. So instead of improving or asking even if those processes need to exist in the first place. Right. And so you'll build these big, expensive systems that, well, it just kind of does what you did before. Now you just fill out a different form. And I think people are really, I think it makes people tired, like the workforce.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So Doug, you've been in the middle of that on the people.
Yeah, I'm on the people side of things, on like what people are kind of capable of from kind of using brain science. And I think a lot of times we lose sight or it's not created or given to somebody where we going, right?
Yes.
Right. So we don't know where we're going. We're just kind of, I like how Simon Sinek talks about the infinite game, but the infinite game still should have some waypoints. So like, okay, we're going here, and then we're going to go here, and so along the way. And if you don't know where you're going, there's a lot of fatigue pops up really fast for people. And the fatigue sets in not because they want to, it really sets in their weaknesses, like what they're not able to just willfully do. And so that's where we come into play, which is working on the parts of them, aspects of their mentality, where it improves how they can, process information to handle those next steps into the, the climb of where they're going next. And then they become a better value add for the organization at large.
That's awesome. It's like change management, but you're taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
Right? Change management is often thought of as academic. But we need to follow these processes. Yeah. Given these forms and have checked these boxes. Yeah. And we've done change management. But you forget the person at the end of this tech revolution or modernization that's eventually going to be, filling out forms or giving you the license or
100%.
That's never told. Why am I doing this? Yeah.
Well, and I think, Doug, to that point, NAV, like what that boils down to is trust.
Yeah.
So all of the pieces and parts that may make up a mission or a vision or whatever, if the people actually implementing that maybe don't have a through line to wait, why? This is hard, right? So with that in mind, Doug, what have you seen personally, maybe from some of the folks that you've worked with, where leadership in a company was able to incentivize learning in a way that it made it a positive experience for someone to maybe raise their hand and say, like, I don't know how to do that. right? And say and have that employer or that group say, "Oh, awesome. Thank you for telling us, and this is how we're going to improve on that." So what are some of the ways that you've worked with people or that you've seen that come out positively?
Yeah, when companies invest in their team or their people, it 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 exponentializes really levels up that person's or multiplies that person's ability to give more of their all, right? There was a saying, I think, that, hey, if you can turn somebody into an A player, right? It's better than having like 5 B players. The ratio could be like 50-1, right? Sometimes when you can level up somebody, if they can work to that degree. So how do you develop people that can be more A players? Because I don't think you can, everybody's trying to hire A players, but after a while, you have to understand that pool is going to be kind of limited. So how do you develop and turn people into A players? And so I think companies that actually spend time doing that, they will reap the overall best benefit.
Yeah.
Great point. We as a growing company went through this trap where, let me back up. My philosophy on hiring and growing people since we founded has been to find raw talent and grow them into A players. And at one point, our growth sort of overtook that philosophy. We couldn't grow people fast enough.
Right.
So then we were like, oh, let's go buy A players. And then let's only buy A players. Buy meaning hire in the outside, right? And we ran out of A players to hire, or all the A players, there were compromises made on values or fit,
right?
Because they were A players skill set wise.
Which right, when I would ask like what made somebody an A player, or did you find people that were A players that then when they came in, they're like, you're not really an A.
Yeah, they were A players on the day that we interviewed them, something like that. So we've quickly come to the realization that mix is very important, right? And not because people are B today, they can get to A. To your point, the mix is very important from a pure business standpoint. Also, cost controls and averaging out what you're paying for talent in an already strict, constrained labor market. Yeah. So thanks for saying that. I'm really interested in how you grow people from.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
B to A.
It's interesting. I think that actually it's okay to have a mix of A and Bs. Everybody, you could technically have everybody be an A, but at a certain point, they're, A's sometimes start to butt heads in weird ways too. And so you may not need to have a good balance. And I think it's really going back to understanding your value, right, on that team, right? Everybody can't be LeBron. Sometimes you have to be, just the guy that's sitting in the corner waiting to shoot the ball, right? And so, but you got to be able to knock that down when he passes it to you. So,
Not Bronny.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that. But either way, you want to be able to know your worth and your value to the team. And so understanding that is I think, the next evolution of where companies can go. And that's one thing ThinkUp's wanting to help organizations figure out.
Hey everyone, I'm Kelsey Walker. I'm the Communications Director for the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center, and I'm with Chris McAdoo. Hey Chris.
Hey Kelsey.
I'm here to ask you about our growth stage and advanced business programming at KC. Tell us all about it.
What? That's very convenient because I'm here to talk about it.
Perfect.
KC has programming for those of you who are advanced, and we're talking about technology companies that are growing rapidly. We're talking about Series A and above. We're talking about fundraising. We're talking about venture capital. We're talking about serious revenue. There's the Works Business Accelerator, or the Startup Accelerator, where we'll take 5 or 6 startups for 8 weeks this year, absolutely laser focused on going to market and creating revenue, pairing them with mentors, pairing them with incredible industry veterans to understand what it takes to launch and sustain a business. We also have Inflection Point for, let's say, growth stage, seed stage, or companies that are raising capital, companies that are expanding rapidly, and of course, the KEC Mentor Network. It's kind of bonkers.
It's the experts that are coming
in.
Visit knoxec.com. Click on our programming tab to learn more about the Works, Inflection Point, and so much more.
Well, and it sounds like what both of you were getting at is internal growth for external effectiveness.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So building within rather than, and you felt that pain yourself.
Yeah.
Building from within rather than relying on from outside.
Right.
And I think, what do we do now when you build those? It's not just about skill sets, but I think in an ever-changing world with tech and, like we were talking about at the beginning, how do you take those build from B to or C to B to A skill sets and interoperability within the team, but also an adaptability and a resilience to continue to not only maybe see change coming, but be okay. But like we know that things are going to pivot, right? And so, how do you continue to develop your players into a workforce that's ready to change, that's ready to pivot?
So my approach is, there's a couple of key elements to this. To be successful in consulting or any workforce where your workplace where you're sort of in a high pressure environment every day, you need thick skin. That's something you can't learn in school. You learn that through hard knocks. Right? You need that. How do you give someone a thick skin? By putting them through the ringer with the agreement that we'll be doing that to you. Now that's a very special person that we can hire. And that to me is mentorship, where I'm not going to coddle you. Yep. You're going to go in the deep end day one with some, there'll be floaties around, but you're learning on the job. That's the promise. Two, when you leave Avero, eventually people leave, right? When you leave, I want you to go apply to be that good that you're applying for CEO, VP jobs. You're leaving here as an analyst for PM. I want you to leave with those skill sets. Wow. That can make you a CEO somewhere else. This sounds very fairy tale like.
No, I mean, that's happened. I think that's what companies should be doing.
Yeah. And that's our philosophy. That's how we grow talent.
Yeah.
Then around that is the training and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna go from, every company can't be large, so there's some feeder organizations, of course, and if you can develop people that can be a value add coming in, you develop them some more, and then it's time for them to leave and fly out that type of nest. That's okay, as long as you have a system in place that allows you to kind of do that again, and so you're gonna want to see that. I think that in developing people. Naturally, what we see is that most people overestimate their capability, right? And then when you start kind of poking at their flaws or their weaknesses, then they that's when they need the thick skin to want to grow. But what it also does, if they have too many weaknesses, or I won't even say too many weaknesses, but if they don't necessarily understand who they are, like intrinsically, then it's very, very hard for them to take ownership of their part.
That's where humility comes in.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do that. You can't grow a thick skin on yourself and take the beatings and stand up again and get back in line for more, unless you're humble and you understand that there's so much more for you to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So these pieces, guys, that's never going to be taken away, right? Right. To your earlier question, what do people look for anymore? Because the thing is going to get done as we sit here. AI agents and the models are getting stronger and stronger and stronger, where the work itself will be getting done. So what do people buy anymore? They buy trust. They buy feelings. They buy camaraderie. Then high sense of humor. Yep. I mean, I spent 3 hours talking to ChatGPT Pro last night. It's like, why do I have to tell you every little thing? I thought you were smart. That's why. And that's the thing. If it was a human being that smart, it's a whole other conversation, right?
But Verekar on my side,
right? All I'm trying to do is like lean into my inherent laziness and get something else to do my work for me at this point. But I still want to talk to the McAdoos and the doves of the world. That's never going to get replaced.
Right. And I think it's, again, I go back to like what it's supposed to do. If we are doing this right, we level up in the right way, it gives us more time to get to know each other.
Yeah.
And when we don't know each other, we have more problems. And so that question talked about some of the political aspects that we have, right? There's these massive divides, well, because we don't know each other. So if we can get back to knowing each other, right, having the time to do that, utilizing these tools effectively, when we can do that. and figure out a lot of things, especially in the local community level, much less the national level. You start there first, right? So 100% agree with you there.
Well, and to sort of, we'll sort of start to wrap things up with some messages for folks that are maybe coming into the workforce or younger people that are trying to find their way, right? And to follow up on y'all's point about that, like, what does it take to know each other? Specifically, what kind of things would you say to, a 24, 25-year-old Doug or AD, where would you be putting your efforts right now to make yourself not just the most valuable to a quote unquote company, but to yourself, to your family, to your community? What kind of skills are going to allow you to, be in the mix quicker and with more impact?
I'm a traditionalist on this. Okay, soft skills, learn how to dress, learn how to look people in the eye, talk to people, shake hands, learn how to sell, not just yourself, but anything, like selling is a daily part of life, convincing people.
It's awkwardly selling.
Yeah, putting your point across, debating, enjoying a healthy debate. It's not a fight. Because these are ideas that when you rub ideas together, better ones come out. So don't be afraid of that. Learn how to do that. And then, yes, uptool yourself on AI. Don't wait today. If you don't know anything, if you're saying all I've done is heard about GPT, you are behind. Yeah. Right? All of these ethical dilemmas, will figure them out, but you need to start learning and take chances, right? You don't, again, it's not about waiting for something else to happen.
Yeah.
It's 2025. The world is your oyster. If you're on TikTok all day, that's fine. Find the AI influencers that can actually teach you some stuff, or body language experts and people that will teach you those skill sets. 30 years ago, I had to go to the library to find a book about some of this stuff, and then I had to find a mentor that would be willing to teach me all of these soft skills that have been instrumental in getting me to the point that I am at. I'm had to learn that. No one's born with it, so go learn those things. That's the one thing.
Yeah.
You made me think of how luck sometimes looks, but really it's always about your preparation for the opportunity. And so I would say, if I got to go back and tell myself, 15 years ago, like what I need to be focused on, it's the discipline of thought, right? To get prepared, right? So you said sales, right? In order to be disciplined, to be prepared to sell something, you got to practice that, right? Be on the stage. The stage could be in your own room, in your own apartment, videotaping yourself, whatever. So you're preparing yourself for the next thing and being disciplined to what it will take to get to the goal that I think that I want. Always. I actually know that I didn't have that, so I took a lot of that time for granted. I know it now that a lot of it takes, some type of disciplined action. And, hopefully with ThinkUp, what we're trying to do is help, give companies the ability to give their people disciplined actions that they're supposed to take so that they can actually, be prepared, so that they're prepared to do the thing, to deliver on the outcomes that the company and the people want.
I mean, I have a lot of conversations that I have revolve around when it does come to the skill sets, if it's a technical skill set or if it's all those kind of things that you can learn,
right?
The ability to do it well should be table stakes.
Yeah.
To be able to do the thing, but then to surround that with the ability to explain it, with the ability to bring in someone else, with the ability to say, you're better at this than me. And that's empowering rather than scary.
Right.
I think has been something obviously that's helped me throughout my life, as well. So we'll finish out, and I want to leave people with, this is big ideas welcome, obviously. So we have the big ideas, but I think it's important that we know those big ideas come with practice. They come with discipline. They come with work. There's no shortcut, regardless of what we hear. So with that in mind, speaking to an audience of people, regardless of if they are an entrepreneur, a solo entrepreneur of one, a company of one, or a company of 10,000, if they were to sort of remember one thing from this conversation, I'll start with you, Doug. What would you want that to be?
The one takeaway. Oh man. So I would say get disciplined. First understand and then get disciplined in your own thought patterns. Right. And so I'd say that not to think about just like mental well-being, but understanding, okay, if you are a slow reader or you don't comprehend from reading too much or from listening to audiobooks, understand why that is. Get to the root of that, and then that'll help you understand how your thoughts are flowing in that domain. That would be number one. That would be my main takeaways, or that I wanted for people to take away from this part of the conversation, from what I think.
I think I read this phrase somewhere: "Stay hungry, stay foolish."
But yeah,
And it always comes to my mind in moments like this, right? Because I think when you boil it down, it means be curious and be willing to take chances on yourself.
Yeah.
And forgive yourself for mistakes. Because again, those mistakes have caused creative calluses and a thicker skin. And you're now better equipped to do the next thing. So measure backwards, always look forward.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's great.
Doug, AV, thank you so much, y'all. These conversations, and if for you listening, I cannot stress enough the thoughtfulness and intention that both of you speak with development of both personal and professional goals. Not just developing a company for a company's sake, but seeing what that mission is, the why are we doing this in the first place? And asking, I think, some of those questions is like, wait a second, is it supposed to be this hard? Right? Sometimes the answer is yes. And sometimes the answer is like, oh, wait a second, we found a better way to do this because we asked better questions. So y'all can learn more. We'll put information in the show notes about Doug, AV, ThinkUp, and Avero. And also thanks, as always, to Courtney Jones for kicking off this incredible conversation. Y'all, my name is Chris McAdoo. I'm with the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center, a business accelerator located in the heart of downtown Knoxville, Tennessee, otherwise known as the Maker City. And I hope that this has left you with some things to think about, most importantly, things to do. And y'all, let's get to work.